Folks, we've only got about 3 cards left this year, so that means that we're running short on time, and that's unfortunate, but we have a monumental card this weekend. Doha, UFC Doha. That is the capital of Qatar. And what does that mean? Well, the UFC is breaking ground. They're going over to a new area, and that is Qatar. They have not been there before, to my knowledge anyway. If they have, I don't remember this. But either way, you're going to see some stuff on this card. You're going to say, oh, I don't know these faces. There are a lot of debuts on this card. And I only bring that up because I want to caution you, if you're watching a bunch of us YouTube folks breaking down these fights, just be careful of anybody that doesn't know anything about the debuting fighters, because it's the end of the year. Holidays are coming up. It's real easy to start phoning it in. And there's going to be a lot of people that don't know anything about these debuting fighters other than the odds, the height, and the reach. And if that is the case, just be cautious about their pick. Now, I'm not saying they can't get it right. I'm not saying I'm going to get it right. All I'm saying is you can flip a coin on some of these and just get it right because you're lucky. It's a 50-50 chance, right? Not because you did any research. Now, my picks are for entertainment. It says that at the beginning. But the information that I give you usually is fairly accurate, or at least to the best of our knowledge. Prior to that, things change fight to fight, but you know what I mean. So just be cautious of that. That's all I'm saying. It's a cautionary tale to anybody that is not getting really any information and just getting a pick based on nothing. So with that out of the way, let's talk about something else that's a little more important. The odds. They're going to be brought to you in this video by our good friends at Cloudbet. The reason that's important, Cloudbet, they are a fantastic partner to this channel. They have done really, really nice things for me and for you. Those of you who have signed up for Cloudbet are reaping the benefits. Great odds, usually the best props that you can find. Very rarely does somebody beat them on a prop, but fantastic sportsbook. You can get them at the link in the description. Now, you're going to click that link. You're going to go over there. You're going to get access to an awesome welcome package because you've clicked that link. It's up to like $2,500 or something like that, with, you know, whatever, depending on what you opt in for. But yeah, up to $2,500. Super good welcome package. And when you do this, you're going to use the promo code 138MMA. That's 138 MMA. The reason you're going to do that is because that lets them know that I sent you. Now, if I sent you, that tells them, hey, this guy's doing a good thing. Let's reward him and then also reward you guys. So please do that for me. It is great if you are interested in getting some action down on this card. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about this fight. I don't see odds for it on any sports book. So this is almost exactly what I was talking about with my cautionary warning in the intro, is that we've got 2 debuts that a lot of people just don't know anything about. So we have an interesting matchup. Supposedly, maybe it's not even happening. Maybe that's why no sportsbook has the odds out at the time of my recording. But we're in the heavyweight division where I'm going to probably butcher this name. I'm so bad at Polish names. Marek Bujlo, I think is how you say that, Bujlo. He takes on Denzel Freeman. I can pronounce that one. You know, that's pretty easy. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's going to be hard for a lot of people to know anything about these guys. A, because they don't have a whole lot of fights, but B, because they don't have a whole lot of fights in the UFC, because none of them are both making debuts. So it's a tricky matchup for a lot of people. Now, 5-0 in the last 5 for Bujlo. He's undefeated on the career at 6-0. We got 1 loss for Freeman. He is 6-1 and 4-1 in his last 5. Very competitive fight that he lost against a pretty darn high-level fella. Now, let's start on the Freeman side. He's a good striker. And this is by heavyweight standards because, like, you know, heavyweights, you get a little more windows on whether you're good or bad because, like, most of the heavyweights are not good at much, right? They're just blobs. Now, not all of them. There are some good ones, but there's a lot of them that are kind of not very good. But Freeman's pretty good, right? He's a good striker with good forward pressure. He kicks pretty well. Not something you see from a lot of heavyweights. Good power. That's most heavyweights. But he will back his opponent up against the cage and then just unload. Now, he can be open to get countered on when he's doing that because, well, he's just swinging for everything, right? But at the same time, he's got a lot coming at you, so you kind of don't want to take away your guard for a second to swing back. So that's kind of how he gets people with it. Good grappler as well, good takedowns, good control, good ground and pound. Things you see from a guy who's wrestled before and, you know, big heavyweight. On the other side for Bujlo, he's more of a grappler than a striker, but he does have decent striking. He will come forward, and he's got long, straight punches. He's really good at extending his body on his punches. Something you want to see. He's a good grappler as well. His takedowns primarily come against the cage, so he's going to need to be the one that wins the forward pressure battle if he's going to get Freeman down, at least in my opinion, from what I can tell, from what I've seen in the 6 fights that he's got. Good top pressure, good ground and pound. He's got a good submission arsenal. I think he's a better submission grappler is Bujlo, but I do think the more powerful wrestler is going to be Freeman. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But for me, I think Freeman's going to be the one that is coming forward, and I think he's going to be the one that can get on top in the grappling. So I'm going to take Freeman in a fight that I think is still happening, but we don't have any odds. So let me know what you guys think. And we've got another debut here, and this is a tough out for anybody in their debut. 170 pounds. Nicolas Dalby is not an easy fight for anybody. So we have Saygid Izagakhmaev taking him on. Now, Izagakhmaev has not fought in like 3 years or something like that. It's been a while, right? Don't know how this comes about. It's kind of an odd thing, but he's got the resume. I mean, 22-2, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. That's pretty darn good, right? For Dalby's 23-6-1, 3-2 in his last 5. So similar records, kind of. But Dalby's been in the UFC, whereas Izagakhmaev has been, well, nowhere in the last few years. But he was fighting for one championship, and I think it's kind of one of those things where one championship just wasn't really booking people to fight very much, right? So I don't know that it was necessarily his choice, which could be still bad for him, but I don't think it's just because he just didn't want to fight or whatever, and then the UFC was like, hey, we need somebody for the card. Who's got somebody that we can just throw in here? I don't think it was that. But when you look at the odds, a guy that hasn't fought in a long time, CloudBet's got Izagakhmaev at minus 311 and plus 264 for Dalby. So you think, well, wow, the UFC veteran Dalby, still 3-2 in his last 5, fighting the highest level guys as a big underdog. Might be some value there, and there might be some value there. But let's talk about their skills, and let's talk about how each guy has a path to victory. For me, Dalby, he's not really super, he doesn't excel anywhere, but he doesn't do anything poorly, right? He's a good striker. He's got good forward pressure, good volume, pretty good kicks, and he's durable. And he couples that with his pace and cardio. It's the same with his grappling. He's pretty good. He's got a good cage push. He's just a grinder, decent takedowns, but he couples it all with his pace and his cardio. And if Dalby's going to win this fight, it's the pace and the cardio. That is how he's going to win, because he's outskilled here. Because Izagakhmaev is a very solid striker who can fight out either stance, works his jab really well. He's got a nice kick arsenal, and he counters really well when people come in. When they come in, he hits them with a sharp counter shot, and he often follows it up with either a takedown, or if he drops them, just follows it up with the ground and pound straight away. He's a solid grappler with good takedowns, solid top pressure. He's got brutal ground and pound, and he's got a pretty good submission arsenal as well, both from his back and on top. Mostly on top in, I guess I won't say recent fights because he hasn't fought in a long time, but his more recent fights, he's been hitting the submissions from top. He had a few earlier from his back in his career. Now, when we look at this fight, it's one of those things where I don't necessarily agree with the odds, but I do think the favorite is going to win. I'm going to take Izagakhmaev, and I think it's going to be a little bit nerve-wracking in the later rounds, because I think Dalby is a guy that can put that pace on you. And if you haven't fought in about 3 years, it's really tough to count on the fight readiness. You know what I mean? So I'm going to take Izagakhmaev, but honestly, we're just cracking root beers here, and we're just going to enjoy this fight and kind of try to figure out where he fits in the division. And I won't be surprised at all if Dalby gets this one done. In fact, I think that the value might be on the Dalby side. But let me know what you guys think. And I've got an interesting matchup at 155 pounds in this one here, where Nurullo Aliev, the undefeated 10-0 fighter, 5-0 in his last 5. That's how that works. He's taking on Shem. Now, Shem is what he goes by. Shekweme, I think this is what it is. I always just hear him announced as Shamrock, but that's what it says on his name. I'm sure that's his actual first name, but Shem is the short name. So just clearing that up for everybody. He is 4-0 and a draw in his last 5. He's 12-1-1 on the career, so that's interesting to look at. Now he's making his debut. Okay, so that's tough, especially when you're making your debut in a country that you've probably never been to before. I'm assuming he's never been to Qatar, doesn't live there, doesn't train there, nothing like that. He's an English fella, or at least fights over in England, right? Assuming he's English. Guess I didn't really look that deep into that, but either way, we watched the fights. That's what matters. Rock is a plus 250 underdog in his debut. He's taking on the minus 293 Nurullo Aliev. Now, you can get these odds over on CloudBet, as you know, if you watched the intro like you should have. So there's that. Now, when we talk about Shamrock, I'm going to say he's the better striker here, right? Because he's a pretty good striker. Like, striking isn't his game, right? He's not a striker first. But he's pretty good, right? And he controls the range really well. It's something you like to see. He's got kicks to all levels. His kick arsenal is pretty diverse, and he's got really good teep kicks. Now, he's more of a grappler, and he's a good grappler. He's going to strike his way into the takedowns, and then he's going to stick to the takedown. So he'll come in, throw his shots, get to the body for the takedown, and then he'll try to drag you to the mat, and he's going to stick to it. Now, if he doesn't get the takedown, he still sticks to it, and he tries to stay on you up against the cage, out in space, try to work his way through. So that's nice to see. He works to advance his position once he gets you to the mat. Typically likes to try to get to the back, and from there he looks for the rear naked choke. That is his style. That is how he fights. Now he's going against Nurullo Aliev, who's a decent striker. He's got a decent jab and a decent leg kick, basically. He's definitely not the better striker here. But he does avoid striking almost entirely. Dude doesn't want to strike a bit. Rightfully so. He's a solid grappler. So Aliev's going to just say, you know what? We're going right to the mat. And he's going to try to get the takedowns. And if he gets the takedowns, he's going to be on top, and he's very smothering, right? Because he'll chain his attempts together. And when he gets to the top position, he ain't letting you up. He's just staying there. And now we're in Qatar, which makes me think that the referee is not going to say, all right, come on, get up. I'm not working enough. And make Aliev get up. Because I feel like Aliev's going to kind of get the favoritism from the referees, because the crowd is going to be wanting him to win, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. In my opinion, I don't think they're big Shem guys over in Qatar. I do think that they're big Nurullo Aliev fans, right? He's from Tajikistan, different country, but like it's going to be a little more pro-Aliev crowd. So when he's on top just smothering, I feel like that's going to go his way. He's good at trapping the arms of his opponents, right? He'll use his body to trap one arm, and he'll use another arm to trap the other, leaving him one free arm. So once he has one arm trapped with his arm and the other one trapped with his body, he then hits them in the face with his free arm. So it makes it so they can't really defend. So that's always nice to see. But he does take his time getting there. He's going to work for positions. He's good against cage at the cage push as well. He can kind of hold you there, but he can also work his takedowns really well there. On the feet, Rock is going to be better, but I do think this fight's going to hit the mat, and I think it's going to be Aliev that decides that. Aliev is probably going to smother him to a decision, and I think that's how we're going to see that. I think it's going to be pretty clear that he's going to smother him for 3 rounds, at least 2 of them. So we're taking Nurullo Aliev to get the win. But let me know what you think, and I will see you. This fight is at 185 pounds, where Ryan Loder takes on Ismael Naurdiev. Naurdiev comes in at a favorite of -162. The comeback on Loder is +142. You can find those odds on CloudBet. When we look at the matchup here for Naurdiev, he's 2-3 in his last 5. It's 3-2 in the last 5 for Loder. So a couple of guys that are kind of just, they're staying around, right? They're doing what they need to do in times, not so much at other times. We'll start with Naurdiev. I think he's going to be the better striker. He is a pretty good striker with a dynamic attack. His kicks are probably his best weapon. He's very accurate with them. He will blitz towards the finish, so if he hurts you, he's just going to come in with that blitzing style, and if he can get that, that's where he puts the finish on you. If not, well, he's probably going to gas himself out. He's a good grappler, though. He's got powerful takedowns, a good ground and pound, but when we look at the other side for Loder, Loder's just a decent striker, but he is going to come forward. The takedown threat is going to open up the striking, and he does have a pretty good body kick. So all in all, he's fine on the feet, but he's not going to be the one with the bigger advantage here unless the pressure is just too much. Now, in the grappling, I think Loder's the better wrestler. Now, I understand a lot of people are going to say that that's silly. I think Loder's the better wrestler. I think he's got good takedowns, good entries, and he's going to stick to his takedowns, and he's going to chain his attempts. He's going to be working different styles of takedowns, and he's going to mix them all together. He's going to go for the wrestling early and often, at least in my opinion, and he's going to be working that like as a primary game plan. He's got good control and heavy ground and pound once he gets on top, and I think that's all it's going to need for him to get the win. I'm taking the underdog in Ryan Loder here. I think he's going to out-grapple Naurdiev, and I think he's going to have the cardio. The way I see Naurdiev possibly winning is by knockout, because I do think that you can get to the chin of Loder. We saw that in his last fight, but again, Naurdiev's not the kind of power puncher that Homeboy was. What the heck? Who did he just lose to? Yakhyaev. Golly, that took a minute. Naurdiev's not the kind of power puncher that Yakhyaev is, so I think Loder's going to have a little more of a window there. So I'm going to take Loder to get the takedowns, get the ground and pound going, and probably a late finish, but who knows? Let me know what you think. For 135 pounds, Bekzat Almakhan versus Aleksandre Topuria. Now, this is the closest line fight on the card, and on CloudBet, you can find -108 for Topuria, -104 for Almakhan. So this is really close. And I can see why, right? Both guys 4-1 in their last 5 fights. The experience is on the Almakhan side. He has double the experience of Topuria. But skills, I see why it's a closely lined fight. When we look at Topuria, we're going to start with him. He's a good striker with good forward pressure, and he's going to work everything off the jab. He can jab high, he can jab low, but he's going to come forward and throw that jab, and then he's going to put the power shot behind it as he starts to find his range. He's good at doing that. It's kind of how he sets most of his game plan up. Now, he's got good grappling as well, though. Good takedowns, works to advance his position. He's got good top pressure, good ground and pound. But something we saw used quite a bit in his last fight was his sprawl, his defensive wrestling. that was pretty good as well. He used his sprawl really well to stop the takedowns of Colby Thickness. That was something that, we didn't really see. We saw him get taken down on the regional scene way back in the day, like a decade ago, and we weren't really, and like he also got tired and things like that. So it wasn't like we didn't know for sure because there was just so much. I mean, this dude's got 7 fights now over the past 10 years, so it's hard to really say, but it was a question that we had answered, right? On the other side for Almakhan, solid striker, right? He's got one problem is the volume. He doesn't really do a whole lot, but outside of that, dude's got really heavy kicks, good combinations, tons of power, and he explodes into range and lands his shots. Like he covers that distance really well. He's a solid grappler too, right? He struggles to hold his opponents down, but everything else is good, right? He's got good takedowns, single legs great, good scrambles, good ground and pound. And I think the reason he struggles to hold people down is because sometimes he's really looking for that finish. This dude's got a lot of killer instinct, and sometimes when you really go for the kill, you can let your opponent up. So that's the problem there. So a lot of the positives can lead to a negative, and that happens in a lot of skill, in a lot of skills. They have like a counterpart on the other side, right? So for Almakhan, there's a lot I like, and there's a couple of things I don't like. For Topuria, we don't really know much about what we don't like because we haven't seen him much in the last however many years. We haven't seen him face a lot of adversity. He did have a fairly competitive fight that he won very clearly in his last one. That might sound kind of weird to a lot of people because he won very clearly, but it was competitive in the sense that he didn't dominate the entire fight. But he did win every round. I don't know. It's hard to say. Somebody's going to argue with me in the comments. Hopefully you get what I'm saying. Point is, I do think Almakhan's experience is going to help him here, and I do think that he's probably just going to be a little bit better on the things that matter. So I'm going to take Almakhan to get this one done, but I won't be surprised if Topuria gets it. I think Almakhan is the side in this matchup, just with the experience. I think he's a little bit more reliable to do what he needs to do. So give me Almakhan. Let me know what you guys think. Flyweight matchup where Kyoji Horiguchi makes his re-debut in the UFC. He returns. He takes on Tagir Ulanbekov, which is a really tough fight to come back to the UFC for. If you look at the odds, Cloudbet's got Tagir at a minus 188 favorite. The underdog here, plus 164 for Horiguchi. When we look at these guys, both have 4 wins in their last 5 fights. For Horiguchi, there's a no contest in there, and there's 1 loss in there for Ulanbekov. The experience is going to go to the side of Horiguchi, who has, 40 fights, because of the no contest, 40 fights in his professional career. That's wild, as opposed to the 19 for Ulanbekov. But when we look at this matchup, so let's talk skill for skill first. Ulanbekov, good striker. He's got a good jab, good movement, and he cuts off the cage really well. He's really started using the knees a lot more, whether it's in the clinch or in space. But his striking defense has never been the best aspect of his game, but he's usually tough enough to kind of grit through it, right? Solid grappler, good takedowns, really good body lock. His scrambles well. If he takes your back, he's probably going to stay there. He's got a nasty guillotine. So he gets those arms just right under the chin, and because he's got those long, lanky limbs, he's able to just slip that right under no problem. Like if you got those big muscular forearms, it's harder to sometimes get under the chin of somebody. But if you got that bony wrist, which Ulanbekov kind of does, you can slip under the chin a little easier, especially once people start sweating a bit. So the guillotine is there for him. It's a move he likes quite a bit. On the other side, for Horiguchi, very talented fighter. He's a solid striker. I think he's going to have a striking edge here. Because the guy has that karate style where he controls the range and he'll just dart in, land his shots, and dart back out. He also counter strikes really well when people are coming in at him. So when somebody comes in at him, he gets his head off the center line and hits him with a big shot. That is how he counters people on their entries. He's very accurate when he does that kind of stuff, and a lot of times he'll follow up with combinations. Now in the grappling, he's good. I think Tagir might be able to grapple just a wee bit better, but I think that Horiguchi is very good. He's got a really good submission arsenal. He's very opportunistic, and he can scramble really well. He can even mix in his own takedowns, and he's done that more in his recent career. But it's primarily he's more of a strike first kind of guy. But lately he's mixed in more wrestling. Now, when we look at this, now you're gonna look at the okay, 34-5. He's got some losses on the career. I want to point this out. You might even look at the losses and be like, oh, he lost to Patchy Mix. This guy's a bum. Patchy Mix is a bantamweight, and a big one at that. Horiguchi is a small flyweight. If you look at who he's lost to, and you look at the weight class of every fight, he's lost once at flyweight, and that is to Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Horiguchi's only lost once at flyweight. I need to just emphasize that every other time he's lost, it's been at bantamweight. He's not a bantamweight. The dude's not even close to a bantamweight. He's what, like 5'3", 5'4"? Like he's not a bantamweight. He's a small flyweight. So I understand Ulanbekov is a big flyweight, but he's still not a bantamweight necessarily. Like he's going to be smaller than a lot of the bantamweights that are beating Horiguchi. Now, with that said, he is, a bit long in the tooth, if you will. He's been around for a long time. He's had a lot of fights and a lot of competitive fights with high-level guys. But I think Horiguchi's really live here as an underdog, and I'm going to take him outright. We're going to take Kyoji Horiguchi to get this one done. I think he has success on the feet. I think he can crack, and I think he's going to be able to edge this one out. Whether it goes to decision or not, that's up for debate, but I do think Horiguchi can get this one done, so we're going to take it. Let me do this one quick. It's pretty obvious. Abdul Rakhman Yakhyaev takes on Raffael Cerqueira at the 205-pound division. Yakhyaev is 7-0 in his career, 5-0 in the last 5, 11-3 for Cerqueira, 2-3 in the last 5. We kind of know what's going on there. Now, CloudBet's got a deal for you on Yakhyaev at minus 877. That's by far the best line. Cerqueira is plus 649. So that's interesting to see. But for Cerqueira, decent striking. He's got decent power, decent body kick, things like that. He's a decent grappler with decent takedowns. He's got pretty heavy ground and pound. But, we've seen this guy just get ran through by some of the lower tier guys in the division. And it was a close fight in his last one, but again, some of the lower tier guys in the division, it's kind of how that works. When we look at Yakhyaev, he's looked good, right? He looks really good in the contender series. He's a good striker, good power, good combinations. The 2-3 is probably his best, combo that he uses. Good kicks. He picks his shots well. He's tough. He can take a punch. Grappling's even better. He's got good, solid grappling, good takedowns, body lock. He'll stick to the body lock. He can mat return you once you start fighting your way back up. Good back taker. Attacks his submissions well. The arsenal's there. There's not a whole lot to really say here. Yakhyaev should get this one done. He should get it done at a very high clip. I'm gonna take Yakhyaev. I feel like there's no reason for me to pick Cerqueira in this matchup. I think Yakhyaev is better than the competition that Cerqueira's been losing to. So there we go. Let me know what you debut at 145 pounds. Luke Riley, the undefeated 11-0 prospect, makes his debut against Bogdan Grad. Now Grad's 4-1 in his last 5, 15-3 on the career. So he's no slouch either, right? The record's very good. But Luke Riley, if you look at the odds brought to you by CloudBet, is a minus 242 favorite. The comeback on Grad is plus 208, and that's wild for a guy making his debut against someone as good as Bogdan Grad. But let's see if there's any merit to it, right? So for Grad, good striker, right? He's got a good stiff jab, keeps his guard up, high guard, doesn't really move a lot, but he keeps his guard up, picks his shots pretty well, and he's got really powerful kicks. Now, he can be hit, but a lot of times they're not super flush, especially not early in the fight. As it goes on, it starts to get a little more easy to hit him flush, but early on, he does keep that guard up and kind of like lessens the shots he's taking. He's a good grappler, and I think if he comes out with a grappling-heavy game plan, that is his best bet to win this fight because he will chain his takedowns together. He's very opportunistic, whether it's with advancing position, getting his takedowns, all that good stuff. His takedown defense is good, and he's got good ground and pound. But his problem is he struggles to hold people down. He's not great at just getting on top and smothering, but he's good at getting the fight to the mat. So he's going to have to do that quite a bit if he wants to win this fight, in my opinion, because Luke Riley's biggest detriment, I guess, is his takedown defense. He can be taken down, but on the feet, his striking is very, very solid. The guy's got really good combinations. He puts his punches and kicks together extremely well, good volume. He works the body. He'll mix in the knees and elbows even, and he can counter strike well. And also, dude's got cardio to do that for however long he needs to. I think he typically builds as the fight goes on even. So it's tough for me to call, and I understand why Riley's a favorite. I think if he doesn't get taken down consistently throughout 3 rounds, man, he'd probably win in the striking fight. But if he does get taken down over and over again, or at least for big parts of the fight, Grad could really win this fight. And it's not like Grad sucks on the feet either. He's pretty good there too. So it's not like he won't have any success. So that makes it really close. And at the odds, I think the value might be on Grad, but I still think Luke Riley wins. I'm going to pick Luke Riley. But for me, this is a total stay away, in my opinion, because we just don't know. Debuts are really hard to get a good opinion on because some people perform really well in their debut and other people get the jitters and they fall apart. And also, like, this is such like a stylistic kind of question. Like, we don't know how Grad's going to fight this fight. And that changes a lot for me. So I'm going to take Luke Riley, but we're cracking another root beer here. We're going to kick our feet on the coffee table. And we're just going to watch. This one is one that is going to be really good for the notes, not so good for the prediction. So we're just going to let it ride. But let me know what you guys think. A lot of really tricky fights to get a read on this card. This is one of them. 125-pound matchup, Alex Perez, Asu Almabayev. The reason this is so tricky is because I don't know that the skills and the record reflect each other, because Asu Almakhan is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Is great. That's great. His skills and his resume reflect, whereas Alex Perez is 1-4 in his last 5. But I think he's a better fighter than a typical 1-4 fighter in the UFC. But he's fought some of the best guys in the division. And then also some of it's just been kind of like, dude, you had that in the bag. What happened? Type of thing, you know? So he just finds a way to lose in some of these fights. So there is that. So I guess that makes sense then when you think about it that way, why the odds are the way they are, with Asu Almakhan being a -190 favorite over on CloudBet and +166 for Perez. But at the same time, like, I think skill-wise, this is a close fight. When we look at Almakhan, decent striking. He's not a great striker, but he's got power, and he does a lot of spins, which is good and bad. Like, it catches guys off guard, but it also gives up your back, so it's not great and puts you off balance, things like that. But he's decent. His grappling's where he gets it done. He's got solid takedowns, a good variety, and he's powerful in his takedowns. He's got good scrambles, a good back take, ground and pounds there, and he's got a really wide submission choke arsenal. He mostly goes for chokes. Like, I'm not saying he can't do other stuff. He can't go for a joint lock, but he predominantly looks for the chokes. Now, or the strangles, depending who you ask. Some people get really upset when you call it a choke, and they say it's a strangle, not a choke. Whatever. Semantics. For Alex Perez, live underdog, right? I mean, because he's going to be probably the better striker. He's a good striker with pretty good combinations, footwork, and really nasty leg kicks. I think if he starts chewing up the leg early of Almakhan, we could see a lot of success from Alex Perez. This guy's not a bad fighter at all. But the 1-4 in his last 5 tells you that you're like, man, this guy hasn't been good. So how much of that is level of competition? How much of that is he's just not quite ready for the top, or he's just not quite a top guy? He's a solid grappler as well. He's got good takedowns, pretty good takedown defense, good scrambles, and good choke arsenal. However, the problem is when he does get taken down, he often gives up his back to get back up, and you got a guy like Almakhan on your back. That's not a good thing. He's also been injured a lot, has Perez. Like, this dude has had a slew of injuries, and that gives me red flags. So this is going to be another fight where I'm probably cracking a root beer. We're gonna just kick our feet up on the coffee table and enjoy. We're gonna be way too many root beers deep, guys. I hope you're ready for that. We're taking Almakhan because I am concerned about the recent form of Alex Perez. But if you just look at their skills on paper, I think he's a live dog, and I don't mind anybody taking a shot on Perez. I won't fault you for it. But we're gonna go Almakhan just because of the recent form of Perez and the just massive amount of injuries he's been dealing with. Just had, I think it was his ACL repaired. So yeah, it's hard to come back, you know. So that's where we're gonna go. But let me know what you think. The next fight is in the heavyweight division, where Sergey Spivak takes on Shamil Gaziev. Now, in the last 5 fights, Spivak is 2-3, 4-1 for Gaziev. And the odds over on CloudBet kind of reflect the last 5, right? Shamil Gaziev -139 favorite, +121 for Spivak. The reason I say that is because if you look at just their resumes, Spivak probably has the better resume, right? He has the better wins, things like that. But it's what have you done for me lately? And lately, 2-3 is nowhere near as good as 4-1, and Gaziev's looked pretty good. He's only got 1 loss on the career, and yeah, it wasn't the greatest performance, but he's bounced back since. Now, when we look at these two here, it's skill for skill. It's going to be an interesting fight because they do a lot of similar stuff. But Gaziev, he's a decent striker who's going to come forward with power. He's going to keep his hands low, which is usually a bad thing. Not going to be a problem in this fight, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But for Gaziev, I think he wants to keep those hands low to stop takedowns, things like that. But he wants to come forward and throw his big, powerful 1-2 down the middle, and that's what he's going to want to do here. Now, in the grappling, I've said this since clear back when he was on the Contender Series. For Gaziev, he's a solid grappler, but he really fatigues when he wrestles. If you don't believe me, go ahead and check the video. It's still on the channel. I mentioned it back then. This wasn't just because he lost that one fight because he fatigued. He has been doing this since his regional career. He fatigues really bad if he has to wrestle. But if he cage pushes, he's usually okay. It's when he has to get the actual takedowns and picking up and putting down these big 265-pound behemoths that he's got to fight. That's exhausting. I get it. But that has been a problem for him, and that's like how he loses, right? That's how we saw him lose before, and that's how he'll probably lose again in the future, is if he has to do a lot of heavy grappling and not get a finish. So he can chain takedowns. He does have good top pressure. It's just it will fatigue him. He has good ground and pound. The cage push is there. There is that. Now, when we look at Spivak, he's a decent striker, but the reason it won't matter that the hands are low is mostly he's kind of a kicker, right? Which is weird, but he is a kicker. You don't look at this guy and think kicker, but he's a kicker, right? High guard, keeps his hands up, throws some good kicks, but he really wants to grapple. He changes takedowns really well. He's got good throws. He's got good single leg, double leg, body lock. He catches kicks well. He's got all the options for takedowns, essentially. Not all of it, but he's got a lot of options for takedowns, heavy ground and pound, and a tight squeeze. If Spivak gets on top, Gaziev's in trouble. However, on the feet, and if Gaziev's on top or cage pushing, I think he's going to be the one winning. So I understand why the odds are where they are, and I am ultimately going to take Gaziev. But at the same time, Spivak's kind of a live dog, but he has not looked great lately, and that's a problem. He just doesn't look like the Spivak that we kind of knew prior, right? So Spivak looks like he's on a bit of a downtrend. I know he switched gyms lately, and I don't know. It could be just getting used to the new system over there, so that could be something. But I'm going to take Gaziev. Not a confident read, but I'll take it. Let me know what you think. Really odd matchup that if you aren't paying attention, you could miss a couple of things. We've got a matchup between Jack Hermansson and Miktabek Oralbai, and it's at 170 pounds. Now, why is that weird? Well, Jack Hermansson is historically a middleweight, and Oralbai has been a lightweight. And they're kind of meeting in the middle at 170 pounds. Which is odd, right? You don't really see this very often. You don't usually see both a guy moving down and a guy moving up to meet each other in the middle. We don't see that very much. And the odds make me wonder because the smaller guy, or the guy that's presumably smaller, he was a lightweight just recently, is at minus 228 over on CloudBet, and you get plus 197 on the guy that was a middleweight just in his last fight. So that is interesting. That is very interesting. But then you look at the last 5 fights, and you go, Hermansson's 2-3 in his last 5, where Oralbai's 4-1. Okay. So there's that too. Like recent performances are Oralbai, so you kind of see why the line might be there that way. But also, you got to assume that there's lightweight versus middleweight, and they're meeting at 170. It's kind of, but realistically, Oralbai kept missing weight, so like it kind of makes sense. He's moving up to 170. So there's that. You got to take that for what it is. But let's talk about their skills. For Oralbai, good striker. He uses his length well. He's got long straights. Now, will that translate at 170? It worked really well at 155. We'll see how he looks in there when he faces off with Hermansson. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, put the heights and reaches on here. They're just BS anyway. Everybody always asks me to put the height and reaches on. I used to do it, and then it comes out that they're just not right. Like, remember Jairzinho Rosenstrike, how his height just kept changing the longer he was in the UFC? He's gone now, but you know what I mean? Like he's not dead. That sounded weird. It sounded like I was saying he's dead. He's just not in the UFC anymore. But yeah, it's like one of those things where like, why bother putting the height and reach up here if it's just going to be trash? It's not even accurate. So we're not going to bother. But when we look at the face-offs, we'll see if he's actually going to be long and lanky here. Decent power for Oralbai. He's been durable. I think he's going to be more durable at 170 pounds. Obviously, less weight cut means probably more durable in general. Now, the guy's going to be hitting harder up there, but I think he's going to take the punches better, especially because he probably should have been a welterweight, let's be honest. He's a solid grappler. He chains his takedowns really well. He's got a good body lock. He can mat return pretty well. He's kind of a pressure grinder on the mat. Like he gets you down there and just puts the pressure on and just grinds guys out. Does mix in the ground and pound with the submissions as well. That's something you like to see. But in general, it's going to be takedowns and just grinding pressure, as well as on the feet, using those long, straight punches to try to land his shots. For Hermansson, he's a good striker as well with a good jab, and I think he's got better movement on the feet than Oralbai. He's going to have that good footwork. He's got that kind of herky-jerky style. He's got a good leg kick as well. So there's a lot to like for Hermansson here, but his durability is not looked great lately. And moving down to 170 pounds, he should have a size advantage, but that's not going to help the durability. That's a problem. So I don't really know where to go there. Solid grappler is Hermansson. I think if this gets to the mat, it's competitive, and whoever gets on top is going to probably have some success. But I do think a guy like Hermansson can get out from underneath Oralbai better than a guy like Oralbai can get out from underneath Hermansson, because Hermansson's got good scrambles, good ground and pound. He's super accurate, and he's got a nasty guillotine. And I think Hermansson is the type of guy that if he's grappling with Oralbai, will have some success. On the feet, however, I think that weight cut is just not going to be good for Hermansson, especially a guy that's already been getting knocked out recently. He took a really, really super necessary extra shot in his last matchup after he was knocked out bad, and I don't think cutting the weight is going to be good for him here. When I saw this matchup, immediately Hermansson jumped off the page as like, oh, that's a great underdog. And then I looked at it, I was like, oh, wait a minute, why is this at 170? Wait a minute, why is Oralbai fighting Jack Hermansson? This doesn't make any sense. And then the more I thought about it, the more I decided I have to go Oralbai, but I can't bet it. There's a real chance that Hermansson is going to just absolutely massacre the guy who he should be way bigger than in the grappling. But I just don't trust that durability of Hermansson in a fight where he's cutting an extra 15 pounds after being knocked out a bit lately, and that's So we're gonna take oral bye. It's a root beer fight for me. Let me know what you think. Pretty well matched matchup here at 205 pounds. Volkan Ozdemir takes on Alonzo Menafield. Now both guys are 3-2 in their last 5 fights, but Ozdemir, he's a pretty decent size favorite over on CloudBet. You can get him at -225, +195 for Menafield. Now let's talk about the skills for Menafield. Good striker. He's very fast, good power, surprisingly good head movement, but he can get a little off balance when he throws big power shots. He'll throw something big and then kind of just not be in place for the next one. This has been improving, don't get me wrong, but you still see it from time to time, especially as the fight drags on. But like I said, good head movement, good power, good speed, all that. Very athletic guy. Let's put it that way. He's a good grappler as well. Powerful slams. Like this dude can just throw you around when he wants to. He's got good takedown defense. He works to get back to his feet. Good top pressure and nasty ground and pound. There's a lot to like about Menafield. He's generally durable too, but the only reason I don't put it up there is because we've also seen him just get knocked out in like 5 seconds. Well, not 5 seconds, but you know what I mean. Like immediately. But once that first little bit goes away, if you don't catch him immediately, he's usually pretty durable from that point on. Now, for Ozdemir, good striker. He uses his jab really well as a rangefinder. He's got a lot of power. His kicks are there, the head kick, the leg kick. Doesn't do a ton of body kicks, but they're still there. He's more leg and head. Good lead hook. Lately in his career, he's been more of a head hunter, which I think that could be a problem for him here because, like I said, Menafield's got pretty good head movement, right? However, if you crack him, I mean, a guy like Ozdemir could put anybody out. At times, he's a little too patient. Other times he's not, but at times he's a little bit too patient. The grappling, I put good. I think Alonzo's a better grappler. I go back and forth between good and decent. It kind of just depends what day it is for Ozdemir. Seeing him get the Guskov submission was wild, so there's that. But realistically, he's got a really good overhand to a takedown that he'll do when he wants to get the takedown, and he does have good ground and pound, and that's kind of where I left it, but I do think that Alonzo's the better grappler. I think the striking, Ozdemir is probably better, but he has some things that make me question whether or not he's going to be able to use those skills to win, consistently. Because right, if he's too patient, he's probably going to lose the numbers. If he sits there and tries to headhunt, and Menafield's able just to get just enough out of the way that he's not eating these flush, Menafield's going to be coming forward and throwing power. So for me, let's go Menafield, +195. I keep taking this guy as a big underdog, and you guys keep telling me I'm stupid, but he keeps winning. Remember how many of you told me I was dumb when he fought Omar Sy, and then he goes out there and beats Omar Sy? Just saying. And Menafield keeps getting it done. I'm going to take him again as an underdog. I hope he cashes another one for us. We're going Menafield. The guy seems to be doing the right things at this point in his career. Let me know what you think. Super high-level fight here at 170 pounds. The former champion Belal Muhammad takes on Ian Machado Gary. Both of these guys are 4-1 in their last 5. And when you look at their resumes, I mean, fantastic. Tons of wins, very few losses. I am surprised by the line. When you look at it, CloudBet's got -236 on Gary, +204 on Muhammad. Part of me understands because historically, champions who lose their belt do have a little bit of a rough time right afterwards before getting that bounce back, if they do get the bounce back at all. So, and also, it's not like Gary's looked bad in any fight whatsoever. Sure, he lost one fight, but it was close. It was really competitive. So I kind of get that, but at the same time, it's like, man, Belal was just the champion and put on a pretty good performance in every fight, right? So there's that. So let's talk about skills. For Gary, solid striker, very accurate, good combinations, a lot of volume, strikes really well at all levels. His biggest problem is that he leaves his chin up when he's backing out of the pocket. We've seen it many times. Now, I don't think he's got to worry too much about that against Belal. Belal's not known for being a power puncher because Gary's been durable and he recovers pretty quick when he is cracked. But that is something that you're going to want to see the guy fix at some point, right? It almost cost him in the Process fight. But at the same time, I think that he's going to be okay in this fight. And I do think he's going to be the better striker of the two. He's a good grappler. He can cage push really well. Mixes in his takedowns when he needs it. If he gets to your back, he's got a lot of control. There's a lot to like for Gary there. But on the other side, for Belal's really developed as a striker. He's not a striker and as far as like what his primary style is, but he is developing as a striker. Like I said, he doesn't have a ton of power, but he's good in general with a good forward pressure, good volume. He's got a nice body kick, and he puts together combinations pretty well. He does have good boxing. It's just the power isn't really there. He's a solid grappler, though. Tons of pressure. He's just going to come forward, shoot takedowns, rinse and repeat. Pretty good control. Not amazing, but pretty good control. Safe on top. He doesn't do anything silly. He's got solid takedown defense as well, so I think he's going to be the one getting takedowns if there are takedowns. You can take him down, but very few are taking this guy down, right? I think he's got like a 90% takedown defense in the UFC. Good cardio, good pace, all that stuff. Now, I even put it out in my Patreon chat that like I just did not know who to pick in this fight. And I was like, guys, I just really don't have a pick on this one. And I'm going back and forth. Now, if I'm that conflicted, the value's on Bilal for sure. There's no at plus 204 Bilal Muhammad, the value's there. But I'm trying to pick a fight right here. I'm just going to try to pick who I think is going to win. And that's where it's tricky because I don't really feel confident on either side. I see clear paths for both guys. Now, the reason I ended up picking Gary to win, I'm going to take Gary, is because of the thing I said earlier, that champions often struggle after their first loss, after they lose the belt. I think this is a tough fight to try to get a bounce back on. Now, Bilal could totally do it. If anybody can do it, it's Bilal. This guy could absolutely do it. But 3-round fight against Ian Machado Gary, I think Ian Gary is able to do just enough to get a win, but I think it's darn close. I think we're going to get a really close decision. I'm going to take Gary, but at the same time, it's another one where it's like kind of a dog or pass. You know what I mean? So I'm going to pass, but we'll take Gary for the sake of the video. Let me know what you think. Big time main event at 155 pounds, folks. And if you haven't already, if you're still watching this video, you're probably having a good time, so do me a solid, like the video. I do appreciate it very much. Let's talk about this main event. Arman Tsarukyan takes on Dan Hooker. Now, Hooker's 3-2 in his last 5 fights, but he's had a lot of injuries lately that's taken him out of some fights. For Tsarukyan, 4-1 in his last 5, and he had a back injury, supposedly, that took him out of his main event title match with Islam back in whatever pay-per-view that was a while back. So Moicano got the shot. Now, really interesting how these two ended up getting matched up because of that. So that here we are, right? If you look at the odds, Cloudbet's got Tsarukyan at minus 541 and Hooker at plus 432. So big favorite for Tsarukyan. But I think the matchup could be a little closer than the line. We'll see. We're going to talk about their skills, and maybe there is some value on the dog. Maybe there's not. When we look at Dan Hooker, I do think he's a better striker. I think he's a solid striker. In fact, Dan Hooker is one of the better strikers in the division. He's got good forward pressure, good counter-striking ability. The knees, love the knees, accurate, works the body really well. He'll blitz his way into a finish, establishes jabs really well. He's got a good leg kick, puts his combinations together, mixes all of his strikes, knees, elbows, punches, kicks, all of it. I think on the feet, a guy like Dan Hooker, tough as nails. He's going to come forward. He's going to land shots. He's going to cut you up, beat you up, break you down. And I think if this fight stays on the feet for 25 minutes, Dan Hooker probably wins. He's not bad on the ground either. He's a pretty good grappler, in fact. He's got good submission defense in general. Obviously, like Islam got him out of there, but he's got good submission defense in general. He's got really good ground and pound elbows, and he can do that from his back, too. He's used his elbows off his back to cut people up before. He uses his length really well. He's a long, lanky guy. And also, he's got a sneaky submission arsenal that he can tap into when needed. However, I think grappling side goes to Tsarukyan. We're going to start with his grappling. He's a solid grappler. He's got good takedowns, and he's going to shoot a lot of them, especially because in this matchup, I think it's a clear path for him to take this to the mat, and I think that's what he knows that. He's got good top control. He's very safe on top. His takedown defense is there as well, so I could see this being a fight where Tsarukyan knows he needs to get on top and stay safe, and if he does that for 25 minutes, does that maybe get him a title shot? I don't know, but it could get him a win, and I think that's what his path is going to be. He does have pretty good ground and pound and good scrambles as well, so there is that. Now, on the feet, we've seen him cracked before. We've seen him hurt by Joaquim Silva. We've seen him, or Joaquim Silva, I think it is pronounced because he's Portuguese, or has Brazilian, so he's Portuguese speaking. I don't know. Either way, whatever. Call it what you will. Either way, we've seen him cracked before in fights, and he usually can fight through it. But we've seen him on the baby deer legs before. You know, you got the, whoa, just came out the deer. His legs are all whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Either way, maybe not. Maybe you haven't seen a deer. I don't know. But he's a good striker in general. But we have seen him hurt before, and a guy like Hooker could do it. He's got good forward pressure to Tsarukyan. He's got good power. His striking defense is generally good, but if you get through that and you crack him, like I said, good kicks and a really dynamic attack. I can't not pick Tsarukyan here. I do think he wins at a pretty high clip. But Dan Hooker is the type of guy that if you do not absolutely put him out of there, he's live for the whole fight regardless of how long it's going on. For 25 minutes, Dan Hooker's going to be extremely live in this fight. But I also think that Tsarukyan can just rinse and repeat takedowns if he needs to. And I think that's what he's going to have to do for a lot of this fight. And I think that's how he's going to try to get the win. So I'm going to take Arman Tsarukyan. Almost said Dan. I'm going to take Arman Tsarukyan here to get the win over Dan Hooker. And I think it's going to be a decision where he dominates the fight, but has a couple of moments where you're like, ooh, And that's going to be the thing that probably makes the UFC still not give him a darn title shot, even though he's 22-3. So let me know what you guys think. That's how I'm seeing it, but I've been wrong before. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will catch you all down the road.